Hello everybody, this is the Week in Geek. My name is Juan Calvillo, I'm your host. I'm going to be talking about King of the Hill, giving you a quick review. First, let's talk a little bit about the history of the show. It was last on the air, according to IMDb, sometime in 2010. And it is now moved to Hulu. Season 14 of the show is 10 episodes long. It is very much King of the Hill. If you are a fan, if you have ever said, that boy ain't right, ever in your life, you are a fan of King of the Hill. And if you are, this season is like a small time capsule for the show. You get to see so many interesting, funny throwbacks to the original series over a decade and a half ago. So some of the main storylines for this 14th season of King of the Hill revolve around the core group. That's Peggy, Hank, Bobby Hill, right? We're talking about the guys who sat in the alleyway drinking beer, Boomhauer, Bill, and Dale. This show is running on all cylinders, is just as interesting and funny, I believe, as the first 13 seasons were. One of the main storylines obviously revolves around the titular family, Hank and Peggy Hill. They have returned to Arlen, Texas after a lengthy stay in Saudi Arabia. Hank was contracted to do some work there, but they are back. And the main thing that I took away from the storyline, especially with Hank and Peggy, is that they're trying to get back into the swing of things. Their life was very different in Saudi Arabia. And while there's still plenty of traditional, really, ingrained fun inside jokes, or jokes in general, the fact that Peggy will consistently believe she is a master of Spanish. Now, she believes she understands and can speak Arabic. And which is very funny. There is also this whole thing where they're trying to adapt to a very changed Arlen, Texas. It is not the Arlen that they left. Also, there's just like this room for just the normal everyday shenanigans that they get into, right? Peggy ends up having an entire storyline with Dale. There's an entire storyline between Hank and Bobby where they're kind of competing against each other. These are the things that are normal for King of the Hill, and the jokes are just as crisp, just as funny, obviously with a little bit of a twist, I feel, to today, which is focused on the fact that things have changed. Our vocabulary, the way we talk, the way we greet each other, the way we refer to people, there is a sense of more diversity and a larger grouping of people. And I think Mike Judge, the creator of King of the Hill, the writer of King of the Hill, the voice for Hank Hill, Mike Judge has just perfectly nailed a lot of the oddities and a lot of the silliness that come with what is currently very normal and current. There are jokes in the trailer that show just how challenging it is for Hank and Peggy to come back, interact with a lot of the changes. Most of that is done in the first or second episode. I think once a lot of the being acclimated gets done, it goes right into some of the more classic King of the Hill comedy. Bobby Hill also gets his entire storyline. He's all grown up now. He didn't go to college, but he is now a chef, and a darn good one apparently. He's doing a fusion restaurant, and it's really interesting. He's still Bobby Hill. I think that's what's important. I think there are people who may not be big fans that Bobby is no longer a kid, but I think it's funny. It brings up a lot more. While the original series had a lot of jokes where it was like, that boy ain't right, where Hank is consistently trying to figure out his child, in this new season, Bobby is his own man, and it is very funny to see him be a man, but still sometimes come off as this super innocent kid, or young person, I guess, at this point. But he grows a lot over the course of just one season, one 10-episode season. There are a couple of changes to the winning formula that is King of the Hill. Brittany Murphy, she passed away in 2009. She is missing from the season 14 of King of the Hill. The original voice for Dale Gribble, Johnny Hardwick, is no longer with us. Replaced in season 14 by Toby Huss, who does a very good job. When you first hear him at the beginning of the season, it is jarring if you have always been a very committed King of the Hill fan. But despite that, he grows on you. His voice grows on you, and it becomes, and he really does embody the Dale Gribble that I think a lot of people still love. John Redcorn's voice actor, Jonathan Haas, passed away just recently. Joseph's father was not replaced for this season of King of the Hill. It was his voice for the entire season. If they do decide to do a 15th season, they will more than likely need to replace him, or he may, have a proper animated send-off. Like I mentioned before, there is also another change to the King of the Hill formula. That is that most of the characters, if not all the characters, are all adults now. Right? They're all adults. That means that the humor is a little bit different. The humor can be more adult. Now, that doesn't mean that we're getting X-rated jokes or we're, we're getting a bunch of cuss words, but we are getting a more mature King of the Hill humor. Which, any humor that was between Hank and his buddies, or Peggy and any of the people she surrounded herself with, this was always a humor that was adult, but obviously very TV friendly. And this is still very TV friendly. There are a couple of instances where it goes maybe a little bit beyond, but this humor is now spread out evenly through the entire cast and through the entire all the storylines. One more thing to mention about how some of the changes to King of the Hill are notable. Take a listen to the very beginning of the intro music. Because of its new place on Hulu, there's been a little bit of a change to the intro, a little bit added notes there that just kind of like, they're interesting, right? So the take a listen to the music, outro, intro. There's some good stuff there that's new, I think, and interesting. All 10 episodes of King of the Hill season 14 are available now to be watched, consumed, poured over, however you want to say, on Hulu. Is it worth the watch? I think it is. 10 episodes, that's an afternoon. That's not too much to really ask for from devoted fans and from those who are willing to try something new, I think, if they've never watched King of the Hill. I mentioned, briefly just mentioned a possible season 15. IMDb has, and that is IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, has a season 15 already under King of the Hill's page. I think a new season would be amazing to watch. I think if it continues going with just 10 episodes or maybe 12 episodes max, I think it'd be interesting. They'll be able to tell a coherent point A, point B, point C story. The only con would be that if they decide that they want to expand to a 22 episode season like they used to do, it would be interesting to see what plans Mike Judge has for the show, for all of the characters. These characters have grown. They are not the same characters that we saw in season 1 through 13. These are not the same characters that we saw almost a decade and a half ago. These are interesting, updated characters with very fixed cores and very fixed foundations of how they are, but they are adapting to what is now. That is supremely interesting to watch, and to be quite honest, it is also kind of hilarious to watch. I would highly recommend watching season 14 of King of the Hill. Thank you for listening to this podcast, to this review of King of the Hill, season 14. I have been your host, Juan. Please come back and check next week's blog. I cannot wait to talk a little bit about Battlefield 6 and the beta that is going on over this weekend. It is going to be awesome. I will try to record some clips to be able to upload, and like I end all my blogs, I hope to see you soon. Higher, further, faster.